Lily lived in a cozy little house with a garden filled with the brightest, cheeriest sunflowers you've ever seen. Her absolute favorite thing to do was to play with her best friend Tom, who lived right next door. They were inseparable. One gloriously sunny afternoon, they were in Tom's yard, playing catch with his brand new, sparkly red ball. It was so shiny it seemed to catch the sunlight with every toss. Lily, feeling full of energy, decided to give it a really big throw. "Catch this, Tom," she yelled. Up, up, up. The ball went soaring high into the blue sky. It was a perfect throw, except it was a little too high. It sailed right over the wooden fence that separated their yards and landed in Mrs. Gable's garden. But it wasn't a soft landing. It was followed by a loud, unmistakable crack, and then a somersault. Lily's heart sank like a stone in a deep pond. She and Tom peeked over the fence. There, on the grass, lay the shattered pieces of Bartholomew, Mrs. Gable's prize-winning garden gnome. Bartholomew wasn't just any gnome. He was Mrs. Gable's absolute favorite, a grumpy little fellow with a tiny fishing rod eternally clutched in his hand. Now, he was just a pile of colorful ceramic shards. Tom stared, his eyes wide with shock. "Oh, no," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "What are we going to do?" A tight, uncomfortable knot formed in Lily's stomach. Mrs. Gable was one of the kindest people she knew, but her love for her garden gnomes was legendary. Lily could almost see Mrs. Gable's face, her kind eyes filled with sadness. And that's when a sneaky, slippery little idea popped into her head. "Maybe ... double quotes," Lily began, her voice a tiny squeak. "Maybe we just don't say anything. No one saw us." She looked at Tom, hoping he'd agree. Tom looked from the broken gnome back to Lily. His face was scrunched up in thought. But that wouldn't be telling the truth, Lily," he said, shaking his head slowly. But it's so hard," Lily argued, feeling a tear prick at the corner of her eye. "She'd be so upset with us. And we'll definitely get in trouble." The thought of facing Mrs. Gable felt scarier than anything she could imagine. They both went back to their own homes, the fun of the afternoon completely gone. But the image of the broken gnome weighed heavily on Lily's mind. At dinner, her favorite spaghetti and meatballs tasted like sawdust. She kept glancing out the window at her own beautiful sunflowers, but tonight they seemed to droop, as if they were sad too. The secret felt like a heavy grey cloud hanging right over her head. That night, Lily tossed and turned in her bed. Sleep just wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Bartholomew's grumpy face, now broken into tiny, sad pieces. The guilt was a heavy weight on her chest. The next morning, Lily woke up feeling even worse than the night before. The secret didn't feel sneaky anymore. It felt like a heavy backpack she couldn't take off, digging into her shoulders. She dragged her feet down to the kitchen, where she found her mum humming a happy tune while making breakfast. The cheerful sound made Lily feel even guiltier. "Mum," Lily began, her voice trembling just a little. I have to tell you something. I broke Mrs. Gable's gnome yesterday." Her mum immediately stopped humming and turned to look at Lily, her expression soft and patient. But oh honey, come here, tell me what happened. Sitting at the kitchen table, Lily explained everything. The sparkly red ball, the too high throw, the awful crash, and her terrible idea to keep it a secret. When she finished the story, a big fat tear she'd been holding back finally rolled down her cheek and splashed onto the table. Her mum didn't say a word at first. She just pulled Lily into a tight, warm hug. It felt so good to finally let it out. I know it was very hard to tell me this, Lily, her mum said softly, stroking her hair. But I am so proud of you for being honest. Telling the truth, especially when it's difficult, is always the right thing to do. It shows real courage. Her mum's words made Lily feel a tiny bit better. It was still scary, but she wasn't alone anymore. Together, they walked over to Mrs. Gable's house. With every step, Lily's tummy fluttered like it was full of 100 butterflies. Mrs. Gable was in her garden, gently watering her petunias, a peaceful look on her face. Lily took a deep breath. This was it. Mrs. Gable, Lily said, her voice small but clear. I'm so sorry. I was playing with Tom's ball and I accidentally broke Bartholomew. She pointed toward the sad pile of ceramic. Mrs. Gable looked at the broken gnome, and for a moment her face did look sad. Lily's heart squeezed. But then Mrs. Gable looked at Lily, really looked at her with a kind and understanding gaze. Thank you for telling me the truth, Lily, Mrs. Gable said, her voice surprisingly gentle. It does make me sad that Bartholomew is broken, but it makes me happy that you were brave enough to come and be honest with me then. Mrs. Gable's expression changed, and a little twinkle appeared in her eye. You know, she said, leaning in conspiratorially between you and me. Bartholomew was getting a bit old and chipped anyway. Perhaps it's time for a new garden friend to move in. Lily and her mum looked at each other, surprised and relieved. The very next day, a brand new gnome appeared in Mrs. Gable's garden. This one was even sillier than Bartholomew, with a bright red pointed hat and a tiny fishing net instead of a rod. Lily and Tom helped Mrs. Gable find the perfect spot for him amongst the flowers. As they patted the soil around the new gnome's base, Lily felt a lightness she hadn't felt in days. The heavy backpack of guilt was finally gone. The sun seemed brighter. Her sunflowers stood taller and prouder than ever, and the whole world felt right again. She learned a huge lesson that day. Telling the truth might be hard for a little while, but it always made things right in the end. And that happy, clear feeling inside was so much better than any secret. Thanks for watching our story today. Remember, being honest is a superpower that makes your heart feel light and happy. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.